So to introduce myself, my name's Leo Holroyd. I'm now the managing editor for Physical Sciences, and I've been with the company for I think 7 years now. So I started as a freelancer at the end of 2015, having graduated from St Andrews University in Scotland with a PhD in chemistry. The academic editing career wasn't one that I'd been considering during my studies. I'd thought that I might go into research or possibly into journal editing. But during my job search, this line of work became apparent to me for the first time, and I began to realize very quickly that it suited my skills in a number of ways. It gave me the chance to combine my educational background, my specific expertise, and my general science background with writing skills and with language skills, which I think I'd always had in my skill set since my school days, but which I hadn't completely had the opportunity to use as a scientist or as a science student. So I suppose you could say that my career progression goes from PhD straight into the academic editing world, quite smoothly and quickly. So I tend to typically start my day in the morning at around 8 a.m., which I find is good for coordinating with other permanent staff in Europe, and also with our main base in Hong Kong, where it's the end of the day for them. I have a mixture of time-sensitive tasks where I have to be online at a particular moment, and somewhat less time-sensitive tasks, such as editing with longer turnaround times or ongoing tasks. So I have a certain freedom to structure my own day as it suits me. I can plan when in the day I'm going to be doing particular tasks. If I need to take some time off at a particular time during the working day, I can make up for that later in the evening, generally within the constraints of what needs to be done that day. It's somewhere between. It's not a completely structured day as it would be in a normal office environment, where you're generally following a particular schedule, but it's not completely free either. So I think I appreciate having the freedom to manage my time to some extent, but I'm also still in sync with the others, with other employees of the company, as we are working towards a common goal. So at some points we are in contact, and then we have to be physically present at our desks at the same time to coordinate on tasks and make sure we're all on the same page. Challenges of remote working: keeping track of keeping track of what you have to do in the day can be a little bit more difficult when you're by yourself. There are fewer physical reminders. You don't have interactions with your colleagues by sort of bumping into them or discussing what you'll be doing that day. So you have to learn how to keep track of your own tasks and deadlines, because it won't. If you do miss a deadline, it won't always be immediately apparent. There might not be someone breathing down your neck for it. So you have to be sure that you have to take the responsibility. Another difficulty of remote working, I found self-motivation to be quite difficult to begin with. When I look back now to how I felt when I started freelancing about 7 years ago, it definitely felt strange to be sitting down by myself at my own computer, working on tasks for and on behalf of people I'd never physically met, and having to motivate myself to do that. So one of my approaches to overcome the difficulty around motivation when I started freelancing was to basically act as though it were a conventional, in office job, and basically to recreate that kind of atmosphere at home as far as possible. So I set up a desk in an office room, and I would always work there, so that I associated that place with working. I had fairly fixed working hours, quite conventional, through the day, with a lunch break in the afternoon. So I didn't work outside of ordinary hours as much as I could have, because I wanted to, recreate the feeling of a typical job, and remind myself that this was a normal full-time employment. And then I think that just over the years, that just kind of it just stuck, that approach to starting early, starting at a normal time in the morning, working through the day, and avoiding late night work when possible, just became natural. And so I gradually, the feeling of strangeness about working remotely and working alone just dissipated, and it began to seem more like, but I became much more comfortable with it, and it feels normal to me now. I think AsiaEdit as an employer is very good at creating a kind of virtual office environment. I think that the managing editors and the other staff, they realize they've all been freelance editors themselves, and they understand the difficulties, especially when you first start. And with things like the chat function, the way that editors can talk to managing editors, and the availability and the openness of managers and customer service, I think helps freelancers feel that they are part of a company, and others. They are part of a team with others. They can discuss their needs or questions with others. They're not alone. They're not just getting work, completing it, sending it back without any engagement with the company. And I think that we're still improving in that regard, in giving editors as much of a traditional, in-work feel as we can. Specific advantages of freelancing with AsiaEdit: you can manage your time in a way that suits you and suits your daily schedule or your existing schedule, so that if you have you receive a job, you have a deadline, as long as you can give yourself enough time to do that work within the deadline, the exact way that you use your hours is up to you. You don't have to be working. You don't have to commit to work on that job at any particular time or in any particular place. So if you're comfortable with working on the move, or with working at unusual hours or late hours, you can do that. And as long as everything is done in time, that's your time management is up to you. I think that we are very responsive to our freelance editors. We make several lines of communication open, so freelancers can use a chat function. If they have a question about the job they're working on, they can use the chat, send a chat message that will be seen by all managing editors. They also can email any managing editor with more general editing queries. We give feedback. We give quite detailed feedback on editors' performance on individual papers, not every single paper, but as and when it's needed. And I think that is one way that AsiaEdit in particular keeps freelancers close within the team. I think if you're freelancing for AsiaEdit, one distinctive feature is that you will get regular feedback on your progress, partly on individual papers and partly your overall progress. And so this helps freelancers to feel that they are part of a team and they are valued, and their efforts are appreciated wherever they are, even though they are working remotely. Have I encountered anything interesting while editing in my field? I do remember learning a lot about COVID-19 at the beginning of 2020, when there was a surge in papers, and things about the way it could be transmitted, which were later being discussed in the newspapers and in the media. But I read about that first through the primary research that we were editing. And being based in Hong Kong, of course, we were, because Chinese researchers were among the first to take an interest in COVID. We had a lot of original research papers on the spread of the disease, and it was very interesting to be reading research into COVID as it was happening and as the pandemic was spreading in the early days. I remember one interesting paper we had about the use of slime molds to design a transport network. In fact, I think they were using slime molds to design emergency response routes for emergency vehicles in a disaster. And if that sounds like science fiction or gobbledygook, then that's what I thought at first. I couldn't quite believe it when I saw the title of the paper. But what I learned for the first time from this paper was that slime molds have a kind of collective intelligence that researchers can use to optimize things like transport routes based on the way that slime molds very intelligently navigate their surroundings. And after reading about this in a research paper sent to us, what to me was a brand new and extremely surprising topic, I did begin to see this covered in popular science coverage in the media, this bizarre intelligence of slime molds and the way that researchers can use it to actually improve on their own designs for things like transport networks. It is a good idea to take a step back, try and clear your thoughts a little. I think it's quite natural that when you've been working hard on a tough paper, and especially for a long time, you can have a bit of a mental buzz. The paper can continue to rattle around in your head even after you've finished it and uploaded it. And I find that's the time to completely take your mind off editing, switch off and do something else, whether that's going out for a walk or a run, or going to, or maybe calling someone on the phone, just so you can talk about something other than the tricky task you've had to do. Something that takes your mind off the work you've been doing, takes you into a different place, go to a different go outside or go to a different room of the house, so you're away from any reminders of your work. And if you do something like that, then you can come back to your next job with a much fresher mind, with a clearer head. And I think that if you do have more than one task more than one editing job in a day, it can be helpful to take a complete break, something totally non-work related between them, just to clear your mind for the next task. Speaking personally, I'm a runner. I do quite a lot of amateur running, and I'm in a local running club. Because running is a completely different activity from editing in every way. It's physical, it's outdoors, it's active, it's not sitting down. During my PhD, just over 10 years ago now, I started going to the gym, I'd never really been a sporty person before. I suppose I was active. I always liked to ride a bike. I always enjoyed swimming, but I'd never really done competitive sports, as it were. But I joined the gym to keep fit because I had no other source of exercise in my PhD, which was computational chemistry. So just as much sitting down, hunched over a screen then as there is now. And I found that I enjoyed running on the treadmill. It was just a nice, easy way to burn some calories, keep fit, take my mind off work. And then for many years, running for me was running on the treadmill. And then in 2017, I joined a running club here in Ilfracombe in Devon, and my running kind of took off from there. Really, I started doing races. In my first race in 2017, I started running much more regularly than I had been before, and doing training. And because this was around the same time that I'd become a freelance editor, I think it was the perfect kind of alternative activity, so that when I wasn't editing, I had this very active and very social, side of my life as well. And I found it very rewarding to be getting faster and to be getting fitter. Everybody when they take up competitive running, the first year is brilliant because you just get faster. If you're running and training, you're just going to get faster for about a year, and then you plateau, and you realize that you're not going to improve anymore without as serious commitment of effort. On the other hand, you can keep one good thing about amateur distance running is you can remain very competitive into your 50s and even 60s. Here I am in North Devon. I can think of plenty of runners in their 50s who are much faster than me over distances like a 5K or a half marathon. So it has that advantage. I look forward to trying to get back to the level of ability I had when I was younger. All right, he's going to be cooperative. I very rarely ask you to be cooperative, so here we go. Here we go. All right. So my editing buddy is Mickey. I think he's just a British. They would probably just call him a British short-haired grey. But my mum is convinced he must have some Burmese in him, because Burmese cats apparently are very famous for being vocal and playful. And needing a lot of human company, and that describes him exactly. He's one of the most vocal cats I've ever known. He has a wide range of squeaks and meows and grumbles and yowls. He's very playful. He regularly needs new toys. He'll play with a toy for a few days. Then if I don't hide it for a while, he'll get bored of it. But put down a new toy for him and he'll go after it like it's like it's a live mouse or something. He's often, because because of the Burmese in him, he does like human company. So he's usually in the office while I'm working. Most of the time he keeps himself to himself. And I just enjoy his company. If I forget a meal time, he will let me know. He's apart from being one of the friendliest and most playful cats I've known, he's also one of the most food motivated. I actually think that's why he's joined us now. I don't think he's trying to help the interview, and I don't think he wants to share anything about academic editing. I think he's just hungry, and that's why he's woken up.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mickey.
Okay, you going to say thank you?
He's a handsome fellow.
He is. He's large in every dimension. He's long. I think I've given in to his extra food request too many times. He's getting a bit donkey. But he's still very agile. I mean, he can get up. He can get from the kitchen upstairs to the bedroom in about 2 seconds if he's motivated. He just tears up the stairs faster than you believe.